Okay, today's topic is on variation. Variation prevents plateau and maximizes long-term gains. By using variation, we can 1. Reduce the effect of accommodation, 2. Prevent accumulation of fatigue and overuse joint injury, and 3. Target performance weaknesses such as muscle imbalance or sticking points. Adaptation will diminish due to law of accommodation. So our performance gain will decrease as body adapts to a repeated stimulus over time. There are three types of repeated stimulus referred previously. One, using the exact same stimulus with no change in volume or intensity will lead to a drastic drop in the rate of performance gain. Two, same periodization phase over an extended long period of time, let's say a year, 2 year, will eventually lead to a performance stalling. 3. Same exercise with increased volume and intensity will eventually lead to performance stalling. There are different methods of variation that we can use to fight against accommodation. We can change up our volume, change up our intensity, exercise selection, tempo, range of motion, pulse rep, stretch reflex, rate of force development, metabolic stress, and training frequency. Refer back to the SRA topic that we talked about. If we use the same frequency over a long period of time, eventually what would happen is that our connective tissue or tendons and joints will collapse. And fatigue management is important, and variation is actually a part of the fatigue management. Variation can target different joint angle and relieve the stress on previous loaded joint angle. Transfer of strength in variation can differ drastically. Strength is joint angle specific. Performance gain from training body posture can transfer relatively well to similar joint angle. Let's say we train regular pull-ups, it can transfer relatively well to wide pull-up. But on the other hand, transfer of assistant exercise strength gain can differ even in similar joint angle. This is a research comparing the gains from different joint angle. On the first group, we're doing the isometric leg extension at 70°, while on the second group, we're holding the isometric leg extension at 130°. Here's a table that's more useful to us. Let's only look at the shaded gray area first. We have the two rows, and if we compare the gain of performance on this column, we can see that at 130°, we actually have a greater gain of performance. But interestingly, when we transfer those result gain into a compound movement, we actually see a quite different result that we were supposed to expect. For example, Group 1 actually shows greater improvement in squatting comparing to Group 2. So one of the ways to explain why this phenomenon happens is by looking back to our force velocity curve. As velocity increases, the amount of force that we can actually apply to the object is going to decrease. Because of that, we would rather have a 90% increase on a starting range of motion where there is almost zero velocity, comparing to a 100% increase at the end range of motion where there is a greater velocity. Greater velocity at end-range motion is going to make it harder for us to generate max force output. The other way to explain why this happens is by looking at our internal and external moment arm. We know that quads can generate more force at end range of motion, leading to greater performance gain at isometric hold. Bilateral deficit, BLD, is a phenomenon that states that 2 plus 2 is 3. Let's go a lot deeper into that in case someone actually put that on their math exam. The combined force of two limbs is less than their individual max force sum. Let's say your left arm can generate a force of 2 Newton and your right arm can also generate a force of 2 Newton. But when you try to use both of your arms to generate force, you can only generate a force of 3 Newton instead of a 4 Newton. Why is that? It is due to what we call bilateral deficit. BLD is mainly due to the CNS factors, one of which is called interhemispheric inhibition, which is basically just a neural bottleneck. And second, reduced neural drive. Our body is going to have a weaker motor unit recruitment if we use two limbs at once. So how much difference is actually between unilateral and bilateral? This is what I found on a 2016 study. On average, the BLD is approximately 8.6% during isometric contraction and rises to around 11.7% during dynamic contraction, though significant variability exists across studies and individuals. As a private pilot, when we look at those two numbers, we're just going to point at them and say, oh, 10%. Let's talk about some of the benefit to utilize the unilateral training. We're going to have more mechanical damage on each limb through increasing range of motion and increasing load, leading to a greater adaptation. And since unilateral training is a variation to the training, we can use it to fight against accommodation as well. By doing unilateral training, we can recognize some of the muscle imbalances, either in our weak muscle part or in the muscle imbalance between left or right. And finally, when we do super heavy squats, there's going to be a dangerous amount of spinal compression. And when we do single leg, there's going to be less spinal compression, leading to a safer training environment. And some of the counter benefit or counter argument against unilateral training are one, demand of postural stability and counterbalancing. Unilateral training will shift the body's center of gravity to create a more advantageous position for force production. Two, specificity. Since eventually we will have to use competition form for peaking phase, unilateral training is more towards accessories and assistant exercises instead of a main lift, which makes sense. This is really not a counter benefit, but it's cool to recognize the fact that with consistent bilateral training, we can actually reduce or eliminate bilateral deficit. And that's it for today. Next video, we're going to talk about periodization. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day.